following is a live copyrighted presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time now for RadioLawTalk.com with your host, Frederick Penny, attorney at law. And now, RadioLawTalk.com.
Where is Fred? Fred Penny not here. Hi, I'm Todd Cunin.
Todd.
What? Hello, Todd. Hi, my name's Todd. I'm a Radio Law Talk host. Hi, Todd.
My name's Todd. I like to party.
Yes, it's been 5 days since my last opinion. Yeah, it's been 5 days since my last decision. That was the what was it? The Husband's Anonymous. Hi, my name's Todd. I'm a husband. It was back when I was married. Hi, Todd. It's been 5 days since my last decision.
We're sorry, Todd.
I don't know. Two nights ago, I was tempted to have an opinion, but I called my sponsor, helped me through it. So, seated to my left, you hear the giggles and the laughter from Seth Madden. Former call screener, now illustrious attorney. He's left us from his call screening duties because
I was relieved.
You were relieved, as in, whew, or somebody relieved you of those duties.
Both.
Okay, all right. It's always, I practice criminal law, and we go into court, and the public defender will come in and they'll represent a case for somebody, and then after a while they don't like this, and we'll talk about reasons why somebody might want to change attorneys in the middle of a criminal case. But when that happens, the new attorney substitutes in private attorney, and the court will say the public defender is relieved. And I always expect the public defender to go, "Woo, man,
yeah,
that had a
riddance."
But Todd Kuhn, behind the glass is Cal Hunter. Cal, how are you on this fine morning?
I'm great, thanks. How are things on the studio side of the glass?
Well, we're getting by. We're getting by, but we will be getting by even better if we are able to roll into a case or no case, if you're ready for that.
Or we figure out who painted that rock in the corner.
Yes.
We do have that. What's your pleasure, Cal? How would you like to go about doing this?
I'm wide open on this. You want to do case or no case? I can do case or no case. It matters not to me.
Cal is like the spread offense, wide open. Yeah. Okay. So
wherever the opening is, I'll throw the ball.
Okay, so let's go ahead and do some case or no case. Why don't you roll it?
All right, here we go.
Now it's time to play Case or No Case.
Yay!
And now, Case or No Case on Radio Law Talk, heard coast to coast and border to border, and always live on RadioLawTalk.com.
Sounds like
a family from Nebraska, the Bob and Janet Williams and their kids, decided to toss everyone in the station wagon. This was in 1969. And head to Disneyland. They especially wanted to ride the Matterhorn. Everyone did. This trip was over the Christmas vacation season, so a time when the park was not as busy, the so-called off-season. They got there, paid their $22 for adults, $15 each for the three kids. Boy, those were the days, right? And they went in and went on. They did not go straight to the Matterhorn because there were so many other things to see and do, virtually no lines or anything. They were loving it. And then they got to the Matterhorn. Closed for maintenance, will not be open for 4 more days. Now, remember, they drove from Omaha. And by the time they drive back to Omaha with school starting in just 5 days, 3 days drive time, they said, we can't stay, but we came to ride the Matterhorn. Their expenses for the trip back in those days were over $1,000, a sum which they had carefully saved. Nobody told them the Matterhorn was closed when they called and asked about tickets. No signage at the front of the park said it was closed either. So once they got back home, they picked up the phone to see about getting Walt Disney to give them back their money. And so I ask you, case or no case? Todd Cunin, you get to go first this time because Seth Madden went first in our last query here. So what say you? Is this a case or is it not a case?
Well, let me ask you a question here, Cal.
Sure.
So they drove across country from Omaha, Nebraska to Disneyland.
In the Ford Fairlane station wagon.
Now, yeah, my question is,
I don't know.
Even though the parking lot was empty, did they park at the very end because, hey, we'll be the first to leave when the park closes, kids? Was Grandma strapped to the roof after she passed away?
This was not Clark.
Was John Candy there?
Yes. Did they happen to pass Christy Brinkley Brinkley in a Ferrari.
No, but she passed them.
She passed them. Did the dog urinate all over the the lunch?
No,
your scenario is sounding a lot like Vacation, but
well, it is Vacation. That's the point. Yeah.
Which was loosely based on the novel The Grapes of Wrath, by the way,
yes,
I believe.
Right, loosely.
So
except for the Christy Brinkley part.
Yeah, well, you have to take some creative license there.
Right.
So I am going to say that this is a case. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say that this is a case in that it actually happened. I don't know if a case was ever filed because as you say as you have said it, Cal, they went across, they came back, and they decided to contact Walt Disney to see if he would reimburse them. So my answer is going to be that this is an actual occurrence. It happened. They contacted Walt Disney, and that Walt Disney refunded, out of the goodness of his heart, part of their either refunded or did something to try to make up for the fact that when they got there, the Matterhorn was closed, given the length they traveled, that this is a feel-good story about Mr. Disney and how he tried to do right by somebody that came. So that's my answer.
Fair enough. Seth Madden, what say you? Case or no case? And by the way, remember your points are all going toward Denise Dirks, and you already won for her 2 points last time we had the get-together here.
As a previous proud owner of a 1989 Chevy Caprice station wagon.
Now you're talking. Yeah. Mine was a Chevy Caprice diesel, by the way.
Ooh,
yeah.
Yeah, mine had the third fold-up seat.
Yes,
You'd be
of course.
surprised how many people we could get in that thing.
Must have, yes.
I'm actually going to say that it is not a case. That it's all made up. That Cal lives in his fantasy world with the Matterhorn. Therefore, there are no prevailing parties.
So you're saying that I just BS'd my way through this whole deal, and this
You got to remember, I sat behind the glass with you for a very long time.
Apparently too long. That's all I can say to that.
That's interesting because the points that he has goes to Denise, right? And Denise recently has been the one. I mean, the only way that to answer this like Denise would have answered it is if you had gone on, say, a 2-minute explanation of both sides and made a great point and at the very end said, and it's no case.
Yeah.
That's a Denise answer.
So we're disappointed in you, Seth, basically, for the lack of brevity.
Don't worry, I probably won't be back. I'll wait for my Monday morning critique.
Well, I think what we'll do here, because we now, with Seth's brilliant case of ad-libbing, I think,
and brevity, the word of the day.
Yeah, soul of wit.
Do you have any questions, anything you want to throw out?
I'm just thinking out loud to Seth, how can you possibly think that a family could go from Nebraska to Southern California under the false impression that the Matterhorn was going to be open and then have this not be a case? I mean, this is a big deal, I'm telling you.
Well, I say that because I've been to amusement parks with a thought in mind. Oh, I'm going to go visit this, or I'm going to go on this ride.
Right.
And I get there, and it's closed.
And what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts are, I look at my ticket and it says there's no refunds.
But how far have you driven, or what trouble have you put yourself to get to that? I mean, that's the real question.
Can I ask a quick? Cal, when did Walt Disney die?
Walt Disney, I don't know, 68?
68.
Like
so Walt Disney, Disneyland opened in when? The 50s?
Yeah, early 50s.
Early 50s. So
late 50s, I'm sorry.
So it was the late 50s. There weren't a whole lot of amusement parks to the extent of Disneyland. And if he was still alive for them to call, that may change your answer given what they can expect when they go to a park, given that Disney was still alive for them to make a call. But we're going to go under a break. I'll tell you what, I would not object to him being able to think about it and give his answer after the break.
Seth, we'll let you do that. Give you a moment to think about it because we have to take a little break here. First break of this particular get-together of Radio Law Talk. You stay right there, and we remind you that you can listen to Radio Law Talk on your favorite radio station, and we're glad you do that. And you can also listen to it live Saturdays 9 to noon Pacific on radiolawtalk.com.
All advertising for legal services on Radio Law Talk is strictly for the state or states in which the advertiser is licensed. For more information, go to radiolawtalk.com.
I am Cameron Levitt, Chief Operating Officer of Concussion Medical Clinic. California's first concussion medical clinic is now open. As concussions increase each year, there has never been a greater need for concussion specialists. Our physicians at Concussion Medical Clinic are board certified in pediatric neurology and sports medicine and have partnered with universities, hospitals, and rehab clinics to expedite the recovery process. Simply put, we are elevating the standard of care. When you need an expert concussion opinion or concussion care, visit concussionmedicalclinic.com to schedule your appointment.
Jason Ross back here with Fred Penny, managing attorney from Penny & Associates Injury Lawyers. Now, Fred, what type of cases are you dealing with now, and what sets you apart?
Jason, we help people with all types of personal injury cases. We're former insurance company trial lawyers. We understand the other side, which gives us a distinct advantage over our competition. Remember, we don't get paid unless we win.
That's Penny & Associates Injury Lawyers with locations throughout California. For a free consultation, go to pennylawyers.com or give them a call, 1-800-616-4LAW. That's PENNEY lawyers.com.
Hi, my name is Lily. My mom and dad used to fight about money all the time. Then one day, I heard them talking about this guy, some uncle I never knew, called Uncle Sam. Well, they say this Uncle Sam guy wanted them to pay him like $1 gazillion, and they didn't have $1 gazillion. So they called this company they heard on the radio called the Tax Doctor. And the Tax Doctor worked with Uncle Sam's people. I think they're called the IRS. And they were able to work it out so my mom and dad didn't have to pay Uncle Sam very much money at all. So now mom and dad are happy, and I'm happy too. Thanks, Tax Doctor.
If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, call now and pay less. 800-263-2610. 800-263-2610. That's 800-263-2610.
This is Denise Sturks. We can represent clients in divorce, legal separation, child and spousal support, custody, termination of parental rights, step-parent adoptions, guardianships, and even conservatorship matters. Call 1-877-886-7186 for a consultation.
The law offices of Denise L. Dirks provide family law services in Northern California. When the law affects your family, call 877-886-7186. The family of attorneys at Denise L. Dirks is here to help.
Hi, I'm Frederick Penny of Penny & Associates Injury Lawyers. I bet you're tired of hearing lawyer commercials. So just relax and listen to music for a few seconds. When you or a family member has been injured, call 800-616-4LAW or see us at pennyandassociates.com. See, that wasn't so bad.
I'm a veteran. We hit a mine in Vietnam. When I came home, I didn't know where to turn.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
My victory's been never giving up hope. My wife is always there to remind me we have a life to live.
DAV provides a lifetime of support, helping veterans of every generation get the benefits they've earned.
I am a veteran, but after I got out, I spent 2 years alone and homeless.
Every year, DAV helps more than 1 million veterans so they can reach victories great and small.
My victory was finding the support to get back on my feet. Now I'm getting things right with my family.
I finally admitted, with my PTSD, I wasn't doing well.
But there's more to be done and more victories to be won.
Now I wish I'd found DAV sooner. I am a veteran. My victory is just enjoying each day.
Help support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
Is this real life?
Time to get back to Radio Law Talk on RadioLawTalk.com and on your favorite radio station.
Well, if it's not real life, it ought to be. So we're in the middle of Case or No Case. We have the case of the cross-country trek to Disneyland. And, Cal, why don't you reset it up for us, and then we'll get into what's actually going on.
Bob and Janet Williams take their kids in the station wagon. They want to ride the Matterhorn. They get to Disneyland. They ordered tickets on the telephone back in the day. They wanted to ride the Matterhorn. They get there and do all the other stuff. They, walk their way through the park, make their way to the Matterhorn, and bam, it's closed, and it's not going to be open for 4 more days. And they came all the way out from Nebraska primarily just to ride the Matterhorn. So they're upset. They drive back home. Their kids are all, can you imagine the drive home from L.A. to Nebraska after your kids don't get to ride the Matterhorn? Mommy and Daddy, you stink. I hate you. The whole thing like that.
I can imagine the ride home from L.A. to Sacramento.
Okay, well, there you go. There you go. It was bad enough, right? And so they thought maybe we should reach out to Walt and see if Walt will give us a refund and maybe cover the $1,000 that we spent to come to his stupid park. Seth said it's not a case. Todd says it is a case. And whom did you say?
I said well, okay. I said it was a case, and I don't think that anything was actually ever filed, but I said it was a case in that it happened, and they did call Walt or tried to get a hold of him, and the outcome was Walt did something to try to make it good by the family.
Try to be gracious to his fans.
And we went to a break to give Seth an opportunity to reflect on his
just to think.
And I thought some more, and I thought a little bit longer, and then I thought about my thoughts, and I came up with, you said this was in 1979?
1979.
Walt Disney died in 1968.
Right, but that doesn't mean that it was Walt. It's a company, and that was owned by ABC Television then, by the way. ABC TV.
Oh, see, the point I was trying to make was that you said they called Walt. And
the metaphorical Walt.
Okay, so I got to amend my answer that the Disney Corporation tried to do something nice.
Try to make it right.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so for those of you who say this...
Well, are you
I'm
did you
sticking
change?
to it, man.
Okay,
no
all
case.
Right.
Those of you who say this was a case, the answer is... Of course it's fake. It's as fake as a $3 bill and a 35-cent piece.
I should have known the similarities to vacation.
I know, but next time we get together, I take you to the city of Portland, Oregon.
You smell that, Todd?
Where a homeless campsite causes problems.
Where a what?
Homeless campsite causes problems with the local business. So that's coming up next time on Case or No Case, and that's it for this hour.
Where are we at for points?
Well, right now you've just picked up 4 points.
Well,
Todd's
four
picked up
points
1.
total.
Yeah.
Yes.
Todd's picked up 1 so far. So Todd has 13. Denise has 12. Oh, boy.
Oh,
there's one more case or no case left. We'll see how this all plays out. Denise is not going to want to show up. Let's have Seth play for me.
I'm going to phone a friend.
Seth says, probably not going to be back. Not if Denise has anything to say about it.
The way this is going.
And even his answer when we came back for the break was more Denise-like, where he talked about thinking about it and doing all this, and then told us he wasn't changing his answer.
And that
I was trying to eliminate the brevity.
Yes. Harvey Weinstein, on the heels of that, failed rides at Disneyland. The Harvey Weinstein experience. Harvey Weinstein back in the news. He's got his case going, and he has shaken up his legal team.
Well, that's an understatement.
Yes. Having a difficult time finding representation. Look, any attorney, if you're willing to pay the money, I'll represent you. But having the ability to find representation that he can agree with on legal strategy and going forward.
And let me say this. Anybody that's going to be in, I don't want to say in Harvey Weinstein's position, but anybody that has a criminal matter that keeps flip-flopping and searching for attorneys and getting rid of some and hiring some new ones, there's got to be a point where you have to say, okay, I'm going to listen to the advice that they're giving me. I mean, looking through these names of attorneys that have been on Weinstein's case, former Casey Anthony attorney Jose Baez.
If you pay my fee, I'll take your case.
Yeah, Hollywood power lawyer Benjamin Brofman, Harvard law professor Ron Sullivan, ex-Kobe Bryant lawyer Pamela McKay, former prosecutor Duncan Levin. Good grief.
I know he's got a lot. Look, the first attorney that he had, or the attorney that did, for example, the preliminary hearing, was successful in getting some of the charges dismissed at the preliminary hearing. Now, that's not a small feat there, because at the preliminary, the burden of proof at a preliminary hearing, I've always viewed it as it's essentially the same burden that a law enforcement officer has to make an arrest. Arrests have to be made on probable cause. And that's essentially the same thing that a judge is looking for. They talk about it in terms of, would a reasonable person believe that based upon these facts, is there enough to entertain that the accused, that a crime has occurred and that you are the one that did it? I'm not saying you're guilty of it, but there's enough to send it to a trial. And the first attorney was successful in getting some of the charges bounced, saying, look, there's not even probable cause that something happened with that person. Yeah. So that was a win. I think that what happened in Weinstein's case, in my opinion, was influenced a little bit by what we saw happen last year with Judge Kavanaugh, when we had the accuser come in and she laid out before the confirmation board her case, and the Republicans had a female attorney come in to ask the questions because it looked different. I think after that, Weinstein wanted to get a female on board that would be more favorable to the jury, more sympathetic, able to connect, and it wouldn't look like a bunch of men against women. We're going to continue with this discussion when we come back, but we're going to talk about issues about when you get a new attorney, why, what are some of the considerations, and what are some of the things that Weinstein in particular is facing. You're listening to Radio Law Talk. We're at the bottom of the hour break. Cal?
We, in fact, are. And I want to remind you to stay tuned for more Radio Law Talk right here on this radio station. And wherever it is you're listening, we thank you. But also, just a reminder, there's always RadioLawTalk.com. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
All advertising for legal services on Radio Law Talk is strictly for the state or states in which the advertiser is licensed. For more information, go to RadioLawTalk.com.
Hi, my name is Lily. My mom and dad used to fight about money all the time. Then one day, I heard them talking about this guy, some uncle I never knew, called Uncle Sam. Well, they say this Uncle Sam guy wanted them to pay him like $1 gazillion, and they didn't have $1 gazillion. So they called this company they heard on the radio called the Tax Doctor. And the Tax Doctor worked with Uncle Sam's people. I think they're called the IRS. And they were able to work it out so my mom and dad didn't have to pay Uncle Sam very much money at all. So now mom and dad are happy, and I'm happy too. Thanks, Tax Doctor.
If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS or state, call now and pay less.
800-263-2610. 800-263-2610. That's 800-263-2610.
Warning, don't let your business get left behind in what is likely to be the biggest economic boom in recent history. If you need to build for your business to grow, call General Steel today for a pre-engineered steel building designed for your needs. No wasted space. Steel prices are expected to rise, but you can still lock in your price on a General Steel building. And you can still save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. As much as half. But you must call now. If you need a church building, office, warehouse, manufacturing space, retail space, or more, call General Steel today. You can still get the General's 50-year structural warranty and General Steel quality, all at a price you can afford. So don't let rising steel prices put your project out of reach and stop you from making your company great.
800-617-9312. 800-617-9312. 800-617-9312. That's 800-617-9312.
Know someone with a drinking or drug problem? Learn how to get sober after we share these stories.
I was 35 with 2 beautiful children when my life and addiction started to spiral out of control. After my divorce, I went into a depression cycle and started drinking more often and using prescription drugs. After my second DWI and arrest, my ex-husband threatened to take our children away from me.
I was 17 when I became addicted to heroin and meth. I thought I could quit on my own, but I couldn't. It hit me when I was arrested.
Get sober now. Your private insurance may cover costs and we'll get you here. It's simple. Just call Elite Rehab Placement right now. Please, don't wait. Your life matters to us. 800-918-1376. 800-918-1376. 800-918-1376. That's 800-918-1376.
I'm going to Quick Quack Car Wash. Get my car washed, make it quick, quack, pretty, shiny, sexy, just because I want to. Don't drive dirty. Gonna get my car suds in the Quick Quack Car Wash. It's the Quick Quack, quickest and the cleanest by far. We're talking 3 skinny minutes sitting right in your car wash. 100 feet of cloth, washing your car at the Quick Quack Car Wash. Any Honda, Mazda, Ford, or Chevy, Saab, or Cadillac, Quick Quack will spruce her up just like that. You'll be happy, looking snappy, you'll be glad you was after Quick Quack Car Wash. Get on the web and go to don'tdrivedirty.com and see where you got your closest Quick Quack in the local area. Get in your car, get in your truck, get on the road, come visit the duck at the
Quick Quack Car Wash, where your car will always leave happy, guaranteed. They take pride in being clean and green by conserving and recycling the water they use, only at the
Quick Quack Car Wash. Quick Quack.
I knew I had a problem, but I didn't know what to do about it.
I tried counting calories, I took pills,
eating, and then more eating.
I really wanted to stop, but nothing could make me stop.
At one point, it was so bad that I just felt like giving up.
I felt so alone.
Like nobody else could possibly understand.
We understand. We're Overeaters Anonymous, and we have helped thousands of people just like you. People who want to stop their compulsive eating and start living a healthy, rewarding life.
Overeaters Anonymous, help me get my life back.
Now I eat in a way that's healthy and good for me.
I never realized what I was missing out on.
With OA, I am living again and loving it.
Start living the life you deserve with help from Overeaters Anonymous. Find us on the web at oa.org.
Radio Law Talk. Now back to the show.
So we're talking about Harvey Weinstein and his criminal case and how he's changing lawyers.
Cases.
Well, the criminal one that's going on right now, maybe multiple individuals, but that's multiple victims mentioned, but it's been consolidated into one case that's being tried now, and he's bringing in new attorneys again. The new attorneys coming in are Donna Rotuno and Damon Sharonis. They're out of Chicago, and I think Rotuno has been referred to as the hero to male clients accused of sexual assault. She's handled more than 40 such cases and has success. As a prosecutor, I've been up against attorneys that handle primarily sexual assault-oriented cases, and I can tell you that unlike any other area of defense, the attorneys that go in to represent these folks, right, wrong, or otherwise, they peel the onion on the victim, and they look into background, and in essence, the case ends up being something where they put the victim and their credibility on the stand, like they're being put on trial. It's a reason why a lot of these cases settle if a defendant is willing to settle for something less, because and why the prosecution sometimes is willing to give away more than what they normally would have gotten at trial to spare the victim of having to basically be victimized again, as they describe it, by being put on the stand and basically having their whole life combed through with a fine-tooth comb by a very thorough defense attorney. And the defense attorneys doing their job, defending their client zealously, but
and there's a quote on down the line here, but I when I read through this, and I was like, the first thing that came to my mind was bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off. And the reason I say that is because this whole Me Too movement, this massive triggering event, and Harvey Weinstein being right at the center of it, there wouldn't be anything better, I think, as far as publicity is concerned, for him to do than hire a female attorney that specifically specializes in getting men off of these type of cases.
Exactly. You know, when you do jury selection, for example, in a trial, when I've done it, you have to understand that, again, right, wrong, or otherwise, and that's the last time I'm going to use that specific phrase there. Jury trials and criminal prosecutions are about more than just the facts. The juries are humans. We talked about the difference between having a robot or an automatic drone versus having a pilot in the cockpit. We've talked about judges versus having some algorithm decide cases, and the same thing is true with juries. They are people, and they formulate opinions during jury selection. And during jury selection, it's very easy to put off the wrong aura, the wrong look, the wrong whatever, to turn the jury off. And I think a concern in this case is where you have a defense filled with nothing but men. And then maybe you have a prosecution that's got male. I don't know who's prosecuting this case, what the gender is. But then you got a jury sitting there, and it looks like, you get the female victim who comes in, and the optic can consciously or unconsciously sway the jury. So having a female defense attorney come in, and I rather suspect that Rotuno knows this, and it might be one of the reasons she chose that career, that I'm an effective litigator, I'm female, I can practice in this area and be very effective here because of the way that I can do things that a male attorney can't. I can impact the jury the way somebody else cannot. And,
She definitely made her name for herself. I mean, I imagine her retainer isn't $1,500.
Probably $1,675 and change. But, yeah, so Weinstein brings her in, but you can bring in all the attorneys that you want as a defendant, but at some point in time, you have to listen to the advice that they give. And one of the things that was cautioned with Weinstein in particular is people think in criminal cases it's common to change attorneys, and those of us on the outside start to read the tea leaves and think, maybe there's trouble in paradise. This isn't working. That isn't working. We do know that a previous attorney who got out in his moving papers indicated that he had a conflict of interest with how to do the case, and he and Weinstein were at odds, and I believe even indicated that they have both retained attorneys to talk about communication with each other. That is clearly a contentious relationship between an attorney, but that doesn't always happen, and you can't always read into that just because a new attorney is brought in. Cal?
I think when the curtain was peeled back on all of this type of strategy was during the O.J. Simpson trial.
Yes.
Where people said the facts apparently don't matter. Legal strategy, selecting the jury, posturing the client in the eyes of the jury, how they dressed up O.J. Simpson's home to be very African-American looking when they brought the jury around for a tour, even though that was not the decor of the Simpson home at the time. I think the curtain was peeled back on strategy versus facts. And apparently this is just another extension of that same thing, is what it would seem like to me, an outsider. Am I wrong on that, Seth?
No, and one of the things that this Messero guy says is that criminal defense is an art, not a science. And it's a show. It's theater. It's putting on, what you think the jury's going to want to see.
Emotion.
And that's why I said you bring in this woman, and I don't know much about criminal law or defense or prosecution or anything like that. I'm in kind of a different realm, but in the PI world, it's similar. It's, hey, we got a client here, and we're going to put this client on the stand. But for us, we have to prep that client. It is a show. Is this client going to be likable? Is it a man? Is it a woman? What's our jury consist of?
Sympathetic. What kind of emotions will they draw out of the jurors?
Right.
Correct.
And so all that comes into play.
I think there's two ways that you can look at this. And by the way, you referenced Messero. Messero is Thomas Messero. He was one of Bill Cosby's attorneys. That was who Seth was talking about, who had made that statement. I think you can look at the optics and why they do this from two different perspectives. One perspective is, you're in there trying to create a false impression, trying to do whatever. And look, I think that is to a certain extent questionable, but you're going to do it. I think there's a reason they do it. Countless interviews with jurors after trial, when you talk about why they sided one way or another, I'm always amazed when I'm able to hear from a juror about what actually swayed them one way or another. And a lot of times it has nothing to do with the facts. And you'll have a juror say, I just didn't like the guy, or I didn't like this. And so we know that's going on in the jury pool. So in the case of Simpson, we have that going on. In the case of, if I'm a prosecutor and I'm putting the victim on the stand, or if you're putting your client on the stand as a plaintiff to tell their story, maybe you don't dress them up in a way that will unduly influence the jury, but by the same token, you got to look at the other side. I don't want them wearing something that would unduly distract or detract from their story, right? So if I'm a prosecutor and I put the victim on the stand to tell their story, I want them to dress in conservative clothing, nothing revealing, nothing that. I want the jury to pay attention to you. Don't come into court wearing, your ratty jeans and a ripped T-shirt and all of that kind of stuff, because you could have the greatest story in the world, but your appearance will detract from that story. We want the jury to hear the facts and hear the story. So there's kind of two ways to go there,
while at the same time leaving a favorable impression.
Absolutely.
I mean, as a defense lawyer, every guy that comes into court all of a sudden has a nice haircut, is wearing fairly nice clothing compared. I mean, he's not wearing the stuff he wore when he got arrested.
No.
I got to see the Jodi Arias trial when I was in law school in Arizona.
Oh, yeah?
I got to be in the courtroom for that, and that was very interesting.
Sure.
Compared to what she looked like before in the pictures and what they depicted, and then what she looked like on the stand, it was
probably the biggest thing that a defense attorney does at a minimum is when they're defending somebody who's in custody, and making sure that during the trial they get to wear regular clothes and not the prison orange. And sometimes folks do have to be cuffed, but they'll have one hand cuffed to the chair so that their free hand, usually hand they write with, is open, so that the jury is not swayed by that. And that's just the considerations that they have to deal with. We're coming up. Wow, we're
cruising
through this hour. Our final segment for this hour will be coming up after these messages.
It was that spiffy case or no case.
It was. Cal, take us to the break.
All right. Folks, we appreciate your listening to Radio Law Talk here, and we hope that you will reach out to your radio station where you hear us and tell them thank you. We also hope that you will go to radiolawtalk.com for several reasons, one of which there's a lot of valuable information there. And then, of course, that's where we archive all of the previous shows, so you can reference them as well. Thanks for listening to Radio Law Talk. The program continues after this.
All advertising for legal services on Radio Law Talk is strictly for the state or states in which the advertiser is licensed. For more information, go to radiolawtalk.com.
Jason Rosbach here with Fred Penny, managing attorney from Penny & Associates Injury Lawyers. Now, Fred, what type of cases are you dealing with now, and what sets you apart?
Jason, we help people with all types of personal injury cases. We're former insurance company trial lawyers. We understand the other side, which gives us a distinct advantage over our competition. Remember, we don't get paid unless we win.
That's Penny & Associates Injury Lawyers with locations throughout California. For a free consultation, go to pennylawyers.com or give them a call, 1-800-616-4LAW. That's PENNEY lawyers.com.
This is Denise Dirks. We can represent clients in divorce, legal separation, child and spousal support, custody, termination of parental rights, step-parent adoptions, guardianships, and even conservatorship matters. Call 1-877-886-7186 for a consultation.
The law offices of Denise L. Dirks provide family law services in Northern California. When the law affects your family, call 877-886-7186.
Many women have so many clothes in the closet, but then we go to get dressed and find we have nothing to wear. We've all been there. We all want to be comfortable and fashionable at the same time, and it's difficult to find clothing that makes that task effortless. But at Letty & Company, you can find trendy, comfortable clothing that is affordable. Things you'll want to wear every day. Shop with a purpose, online with free shipping. Just go to LETTYandcompany.com. LettyandCompany.com.
If you're one of those independent people who wants your own business and you love food service, we just might have a great opportunity for you. Iceberg Drive-Ins. Iceberg is famous for its thick shakes and delicious food. We lend you our supply chain and expertise, and you can potentially have a thriving, successful, fun business that your customers will love. Iceberg Drive-Ins has some prime areas available right now, so if you're interested, get in touch with us right away. Go to icebergdrivein.com and click on the Contact Us button. Iceberg Drive-In, ready to grow with you.
Warning, don't let your business get left behind in what is likely to be the biggest economic boom in recent history. If you need to build for your business to grow, call General Steel today for a pre-engineered steel building designed for your needs. No wasted space. Steel prices are expected to rise, but you can still lock in your price on a General Steel building. And you can still save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. As much as half. But you must call now. If you need a church building, office, warehouse, manufacturing space, retail space, or more, call General Steel today. You can still get the General's 50-year structural warranty and General Steel quality, all at a price you can afford. So don't let rising steel prices put your project out of reach and stop you from making your company great.
800-617-9312. 800-617-9312. 800-617-9312. That's 800-617-9312.
Life is full of bittersweet transitions. It's difficult to know how these changes will impact us over time. For some people, difficult transitions like retirement, divorce, or loss of a loved one can hit harder than expected and may contribute to feelings of hopelessness or even thoughts of suicide. The risk of suicide is even higher for men over 50 who served our country. Guys like me. That's why support from friends and family makes such a big difference. Every day, your actions could help save a life. Together, we got this. Learn how you can help save a life at veteranscrisisline.net.
This is Radio Law Talk. And now, back to the show.
So, Seth, I got a question for you.
I may have an answer.
Okay, all right. What do you do? What do you do? It's kind of Weinstein related, I guess. But what do you do when you're representing a client and they come in and they say, say you've been representing them for a while, right?
Yeah.
They come in and they have a question for you or a suggestion about how to handle something because they were talking with a friend and they were talking with somebody. They did a Google search and they have this novel legal theory that they now want you to employ because they are convinced that is going to be what gets them over the hump or what happens here. How do you deal with that with your clients?
It's kind of this two-edged sword because Google's like your best friend, and by getting your name out there, advertising, we talked about that earlier. But Google is also like your worst enemy. And the question you pose, believe it or not, is I would say on a weekly basis, we have somebody call in or a client or even potential clients. And they'll say, hey, I searched what my options were, or I was diving into some research as far as what I could do about my case, or the best one, I was talking to my friend. And a lot of it is, I could say, like dispelling myths. There's a lot of stuff on the internet, and that's why all those people make fun of those things where you say, like, don't always believe what you read on the internet or whatever. And that's a quote by Abraham Lincoln.
Exactly. Yes. I've seen I saw it in a doctor's office, but the picture behind the glass in the doctor's office, it says, your 5-minute Google search does not replace my medical degree. It's so not.
And that applies because there's a lot of stuff out there, and there's a lot of people, bloggers. There's even people in the legal world that will post stuff on their website, or you'll find it on a link somewhere, and it's like, well, that's not 100% accurate. And maybe what they do is try to get somebody like clickbait, click on this link to learn more or whatever. And for us, it's usually a 30, 45-minute conversation on working them through it. Now, everybody experiences a combative client. They're out there. Then you got the people that just, there's nothing that you're going to be able to do or say that makes them happy.
Yes.
And so sometimes it's easier just to say, okay, if you're not happy with the representation that you're getting, it's easy for us to fill out some paperwork and for you to take your case onto that attorney or onto that bartender or onto your best friend that seems to know what to do with your case.
Is there a point of no return? A flight, a trans-Pacific flight from, say, San Francisco to China or something like that. They hit the point of no return where they can't turn around and go back to San Francisco because they don't have enough fuel to do that. Legally speaking, when you're dealing with a client, is there a point of no return where if you bring up that topic about, you're free to retain legal representation elsewhere, that even bringing that up might hinder or irreparably harm the attorney-client relationship in the civil realm? I think in a relationship, if somebody says, look, if you don't like me, go ahead and get a divorce. You bring that up, and maybe that phrase alone hinders your relationship with your spouse going forward. Is there something like that where if you bring that up, you're almost, all right, I'm cutting – Fisher cut bait, I've just cut bait.
Yeah, and in the civil realm, if it gets to that point, believe it or not, there's something already a riff.
Yes.
I work with attorneys, I speak with attorneys, and I know it. I got a friend that's an attorney, and he said straight up that if anyone ever called him and threatened, to call the state bar on him or to turn him over for alleged ethical violations when he's done everything by the book, he says that would be, I'm cutting bait. You'll find representation elsewhere. Now, there are those clients where, everything's going well, you're working with them, and they've got wind of something else, or they want to try a different method or whatever, and they don't like your advice. And it's easy for us to say, hey, you can go seek other counsel if you would like. It's a simple process for us on the civil side. So it's not something that we're like absolutely against doing. We don't like to do it because we like to retain our clients. We like happy clients, but if there is that client that is, constantly attorney shopping or shopping from us to another attorney, then for us, it's like, it's not necessarily a problem, but it's like, hey, maybe it'd be best for both of us, the relationship for you to move on.
Sure. Cal.
I remember doing a news story years ago on a couple that had hired an attorney. They gave him the $5,000 down, and 9 weeks later, they hadn't heard a thing. 9 weeks. Made phone calls, left messages, said, hey, what's going on? Went and knocked on the door. Office was closed. I mean, they documented to me how many times they'd been. I think it was 13 or 14 times of either phone calls or knocking on the door and trying to find this guy. And they said, what can we do? And I said, you can do whatever you want, but if it were me, I'd be looking for a lawyer that was actually going to represent me. 9 weeks seems like a long time. And that's my next point, is there are times when there may be stuff going on behind the scenes they don't know about. But communicating with a client, to me, seems like it's really important. So what expectations can a client have as far as communication with them, Seth, especially in a PI case?
We'll go back to the standard legal answer. It depends. And it depends on, there's clients that need, a lot of hand holding and a lot of attention. Then there's a lot of clients, up front, we're like, hey, this part where you're treating for your injuries, this might seem like the longest part of the case because it could take months. And we have in our system, we update probably every 4 to 6 weeks, touch base with them, call them if paperwork comes in. We're always adamant about, hey, let them know where we're at. But then there's some clients that are like, dude, you don't have to call me. You don't have to email me. Just let me know if something drastic happens. So every client is different. And in Todd's realm, especially in the criminal world, there might be a lot more hand-holding than what I experience.
There is, and this kind of gets back to Weinstein, which kind of brought all of this up. The trump card that a lot of criminal defendants and clients can use is, they want it done a certain way. The attorney gives their opinion as to the way it should go. And the attorney's the one who makes the call at trial strategy. But it's common for clients to come back and say, well, look, if this goes colossally wrong, you're not the one that's going to be in jail. I am. I'm the one that loses my liberty. And I don't want to, in a situation like this, I don't want to lose my liberty and then sit there in jail thinking, if only we had done it this way. And I understand that point. To your point about communication, I think failure to communicate with clients is one of the leading causes of malpractice claims against attorneys. Mm-hmm. It happens, but again, it's somewhat subjective in the sense that you can have an attorney that goes 9 weeks without calling somebody and the client's okay with it as long as everything gets done, and then you can have another attorney that fails to return 1 out of the 10 phone calls they got but they did it the next morning, and the client is upset because you never call me back. But the one thing that I want to say to folks out there who solicit third-party opinions from friends and doctors, and they go back and they tell their attorney this, is you really got to cut your attorney a break in this regard. First of all, whoever you got the third-party opinion from, if it was an attorney, the attorney knows, I've heard Denise talk about this a lot, very hesitant in a party situation, anything other than a formal situation, giving anything that's remotely close to legal advice. We do the disclaimers on this show that what we say here is not legal advice. It is not, you consult your own attorney. The same thing is true when you're not on a radio station, when you're not on the air, when you're talking to somebody at a party. I can talk to you generally, but I'm not going to give you specific legal advice as to what you do. And the other thing to keep in mind is, where did you get that advice? The last thing somebody wants to do when they're having their second glass of wine at a party is listen to your criminal case because you happen to practice the law and it's a criminal case and maybe you do contracts, but you're a lawyer, so I'm going to ask you. And they ask you and you're upset. And rather than, people in that situation will always go to the path of least resistance. I don't want to argue with you about your domestic violence case, your DUI case, your whatever. I'll say whatever I can say so that we can end this conversation amicably. And if you take that advice and go back to your attorney and say, I talked to an attorney and this is the way it needs to be done, look, you're not being fair to your lawyer. And guess what? We're at the end of this hour. Cal, can you take us to the break?
Well, I guess I could. That gives me a lot of ad-libbing to do, but I will tell you this much. We have yet another hour to go on Radio Law Talk on some affiliates, others not. So if you want to hear the third hour, you may have to click over and listen to Radio Law Talk on radiolawtalk.com. Remember, you can podcast every show that we've done. And if you ask many listeners, we've done way too many. But at any rate, we'll see you next time right here on Radio Law Talk and on radiolawtalk.com.
You have been listening to radiolawtalk.com, a copyrighted presentation of Radio Law Talk Incorporated.